Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh. Welcome to this segment of Coach Gurbani's a-sabad-a-day. Our recitation is Sri Rag Mahalla Panjwa. Dukrit Sukrit Mandhe, Sansar Saglana, Dohon te rehat bhagt hai, koi virla janna, Thakur sarbe samana, kya kaho suno swami, तू वड पुरख सुजाना रहाओ मान अब मान मंदे सो सेवक नाही तत्समदर्शी संत हो कोई कोट मंदाही कहन कहावन एहो कीरत करला कथन कहन ते मुक्ता गुरमुख कोई विरला गत अब गत कछ नदर न आया संतन की रेण Nanak Dan Paya. So we notice that this passage extends the line of thought in the previous passage, namely, the inherent limitation of the sensory structure which distorts reality. And the limitation mentioned here is the framing of existence within a matrix of opposites, called dubda, duality in Gurmat. For instance, we cannot think of good without thinking of bad, cannot think of high without low, pleasure without pain. That is the way we are constructed. That when we think of one thing, it is usually, subconsciously even, against the opposite. So, Dukrit Sukrit Mandhe Sansar Saglana. This is the state of being of the entire world practically. So the call to us here is to understand this truth, to understand how we look at the world through our senses. This is a realization that what appears to us as opposites is the way we are constructed to perceive reality around us. But the call here also is not to be swayed by those differences, because we need to pierce beyond the differences. So therefore, don't be swayed by praise and censure. In other words, don't be judgmental. Man abaman mande so sevak nahi. In other words, if you are proceeding on this process, then you have to develop a sense of equanimity, meaning a composure of the mind that is not easily swayed. Because what happens when you see things through opposites, you tend to attach judgments to those things. So obviously the things that you like are desirable, the things that you don't like are not desirable. And that in turn conditions your way of looking at things, and it becomes a habit. And so therefore, eventually you get to a point where you are profiling others, judging things without even thinking. And that's the problem. So in order to move on this path, the Guru says, rare is such devotion. Dohan te rehat, bhagat hai koi, virla jane. So it is rare, but that is the rare entity that we want to become. Namely, the person who can actually see beyond this. And the reflection, the rahau, is in order to do that, become like the master within, Sahib within. And so this is the self within, if you will, or the mool as we call it, which is the essence, Thakur sarbe samana. This self sees the world differently, not from the framework of opposites. The opposites appear real only until we see them, as mentioned, from within the consciousness of the ego. So if you expand the constriction of the ego or transform it and acquire a broader consciousness, the reality of opposites ceases to persist. you begin to see past it. So the takeaway from this is develop equanimity, a composed mind that is not disturbed by experiences that would normally upset people. This implies a certain contentment that comes from not trying to grasp at things. It is our tendency to grasp, which stems essentially from our basic fear of the impermanence that surrounds us. So, because there is an inherent unsatisfactoriness to life, and so we are never really completely satisfied, and that is what causes us to grasp things constantly. That is what we have to cure ourselves of. With that thought, until the next time, Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh.